Yes, good morning, children. Today class we are discussing about Java modifiers in Java programming. What are the different modifiers in the Java programming, right? So if you cover this Java modifiers, if you thoroughly study this Java modifiers directly or indirectly, 20% of core Java will be covered in this, right? So 20% of core Java program will be covered in access modifiers, right? So basically these modifiers are two types, right? So basically these modifiers are two types. So that is, first one is access modifiers, next one is non-access modifiers, right? So what are the access modifiers means? So now here by default private, public, protected and default, these are the access modifiers. So this access modifier will change the access levels of field. It is also said to be a variable, right? So for constructors as well as methods and class, right? So if you want to change the access level, it is also said to be the scope of your field or constructors, methods and class. So these are the four access modifiers: public, private, protected and default. These are the four access modifiers. So including these four access modifier, there are eight non-access modifiers. So what are they? Final, static, native, abstract, volatile, synchronized, strict FP, transient. Right. So now this entire diagram, yes, this is, I summarized that entire modifiers in Java in this table. Suppose if you remember this entire table, so 20% of core Java directly or indirectly is covered here. So now the point is you need to take the first access modifiers. So it will change the access level scope of your field or constructor, method or class. Suppose if you take some private access specifier, public, protected and default, here there are four access specifiers in Java programming. So we need to think about with respect to variable, method, class and block, right? So here this is a variable, class level variable. So a method which is defined, a method which is defined in your class, a class. So next a block is nothing but a group of statement which is enclosed with the open brace and closed brace, right? So now here we need to think about these four access modifiers. So private data, what is this private data? So the generally the name itself indicates private data, yes. So the variable may be private, yes, the variable, yeah, may be private. So if you are declaring a variable as private, the private data can be accessed within that class only, right? So you cannot access the private data outside of a class, right? So if you are declaring by getters and setters method, there is one provision to access by getters and setter methods, getters and setter public methods can access private data outside of a class in Java. But in C++, by using friend function, you can access private data outside of a class. So next is a method. Can we declare a method as the private? Yes. If you are declaring a method as the private, so here the private methods can be accessed within that class only, right? So next, can you declare a class as the private? Yes, there is a chance. Yes, there is a provision. You declare a class as the private, right? So here where it is available means it is available in the concept of inner classes. Yes, it is available in the concept of inner classes, right? Suppose if you are declaring a class as private, then there is a provision to use a private classes in inner classes only. So can we declare a black as the private? Yes. No, there is, we can't declare a black as the private block. Yes, there is no private blocks are available. Yes, so private data can be accessed within that class only. So next is, so you take the public access specifier. So with respect to variable, method, class and block. Yes, public data, yes, a variable may be public. Yes, the variable may be public, as well as method can be a public, a class can be a public. So block cannot be a public. So public blocks are not allowed. Suppose if you are declaring a variable as private, so public. If you are declaring a variable as public, public data can access within the package or outside of the package. Public data can be accessed anywhere of the program, right? So next is a method. If you are declaring this method as public, yes, you can access that method within the package, outside of the package. So a class can be a public. Yes, there is a provision to access the class can be a public. So block, so there is no public blocks are available. So next, protected data members. Yes, protected when there is a inheritance is involved, right? So protected, yes, the child class, parent and child class is, yes, there is inheritance concept is involved, then we are using this protected data access specifiers, right? So protected data, yes, if you are declaring some variable as private protected, if there is a inheritance, the data will came from parent to child in protected mode. Yes, a variable can be protected. Yes, you can declare a variable as protected variables, right? So next, method can be declared. Yes, there is a provision to declare the method as protected. So class cannot be declared as the protected, as well as block cannot be declared as the protected. So we can think protected access modifier more detail with experimental results in packages concept. I will explain this packages concept thoroughly. So next, default access modifiers. So the default, if you are not specifying any one of these three access specifier, by default, right, by default it will take the default access modifiers in Java. So what are the default access modifiers? So a variable can be a default, a method can be a default, a class can be a default, right? A block cannot be the default. So the default data can be, so variable can, method and class can be a default, but block cannot be a default access modifier. So these are the basically four access modifiers. We can thoroughly explain once again in the packages concept, right? So now the main difference between public and default data is, so public data can be accessed within the package, outside of the package, but default data can be accessed within the package only. The default data can be accessed within the package only. So private data can be accessed within that class only. So public data can be accessed within the same package, outside of the package also. So protected data can be accessed so within the package, and it inherited packages also, it inherited classes also. So default data can be accessed within the package only, outside of the package you cannot access the default data. Yes, so you declared this variable and method and class as private. If there is a provision for private class in the case of inner classes only. So public data can be a variable, method and class can be a public data. So protected, a variable and method can be a protected, but class and block cannot be protected data. So protected data can be accessed in its derived classes within the same package, outside of the same, outside of the package also. So now default data, yes, default data can be accessed within the package only. So the variable or method or class can be a default, but block cannot be this one. So these are the four access modifiers in Java. We can thoroughly discuss in the package concept with supporting examples with hands-on session. So coming to non-access modifiers, so there are basically 8 non-access modifiers. So what are they means? Final, static, native, abstract, volatile, synchronized, strict FP, and transient. So now we can look into one by one now. Yes, if you take this final, yes, so you can declare, you can write the final keyword before a variable name, yes, method name as well as class, but you cannot declare a final block. So final blocks are not allowed. Suppose if you are declaring a variable as final, yes, so already we have discussed in the last classes. So if you are declaring a variable as the final, so you cannot change the value of that variable. So the final means constant value, right? Suppose if you are declaring a method as the final, yes, if you are declaring a method as the final, then what is the situation will occur? Yes, if you are declaring a method as the final, you cannot override that method. Yes, so you cannot override that method. If you are declaring a method as the final, you cannot override that method. If you are declaring a class as the final, you cannot use that class as the parent class. base class. Inheritance, prevent inheritance. Suppose in order to prevent the inheritance, you can declare your class as the final, so you cannot inherited that class. So yes, so a variable, a method and class can be a final. If you are declaring a variable as final, the value of that variable throughout that program is constant, you cannot change. A method as final, so you cannot override that method. So a class as final, so you prevent the inheritance, you cannot use that as the base class. So this is about final variable. So next is a static. So static, so a variable, a method as well as class can be static as well as block. Yes, so here static, there are four chances. Yes, you look into here, it is a variable can be a static, a method can be static, a class can be a static, as well as block can be static. So these four are true: a static variable, a static method, a static class, as well as static block. Suppose if you are declaring a variable as static by prefixed with the keyword static. So static variables are created only once and shared by all the objects of the same class. So static methods, yes. So here method can be a static. So example for static method is your main method is the static method. Yes. So if you are declaring a static method without creating object of a class, without instantiation, you can create the static methods. Suppose if you are declaring a class as the static, in case of inner classes concept, we are using static classes. In case of inner classes concept, we are using the static classes. Right, so we can discuss depth in inner classes concept about static classes. So next is a block as static. Suppose if you are declaring a block as the static, right, before the main method, the static blocks will be invoked. The static blocks will be invoked before the main method. Yes, the static block. Yes. So the static keyword with this respect to these four fields: variable, method, class, and block. Yes. Right. Suppose a variable as static, it is common for all objects. So method as static, main method is example for static method, without using object of a class, without instantiation, so you can invoke static methods. So class can be a static. Yes, class can be a static. Inner classes concepts we are using. So a block can be a static. Yes, there is provision for block can be a static. So the static blocks are invoked before the main method. So next you need to think about the native methods. So what are these native? So native language. My native language is Telugu. My native village is some rural village. So native means the already some functionality which is implemented in C or C++, you can use as it is in Java program. So no need to rewrite the code again. So whatever the functionality which is implemented in previous existing programming languages like C or C++, you can use as it is. So the native methods are available. Only the provision is there is only a native methods. So there is no provision for variable, class, and block with respect to native. Right. Suppose if you are declaring a method as, right, so a method as native methods, native non-access modifier, the native keyword is applied to a method only to indicate the method is implemented in native code using Java native interfaces. So native is a modifier applicable only for methods, and we cannot apply it anywhere else. So the methods which are implemented in C or C++, the old programming languages, that are we are using as it is in our Java programming. Right. So the main objectives of these native keywords are to improve performance of the system. Yes, if you are writing the code C or C++, by implicitly the performance will be increased. To achieve machine level or memory level communications. Yes, so memory level communications, we are using these to use already existing legacy non-Java code. So legacy means the old programming, non-Java code, whether it is implemented in C or C++, you are using as it is this one. So next, so here this is the basic pseudocode to use native keyword in Java programming. So class native, I define some class native. So as well as class text. In text method, this has main method. So text class, it has the main method. So this class test, it has the main method. So what I did here, I'm instantiated for this native, right? So native, capital N I written, actually it is small n, native, N-A-T-I-V, native keyword. So I'm creating object, I'm instantiating for this native class. So by using this native class, I'm calling this method em. So what is this method em? So this method public native void em, this method is already implemented in legacy programming languages like C or C++. We are using as it is here. So here in this case, I'm using the static block. Yes, a block prefixed with a static keyword, then it is said to be the static block. So static, by using the static block, I am loading a system.load library. So which library is loading here? It is native library path. So your code where it is available, you need to load it. So here before this main method, the static block will be executed. So the path of your native library path will be loaded here by using system.load library. So then this m method is the native method which is invoked by using the object of this native class. So this is the native non-access modifier, right? So by using this native non-access modifier, actually this Java is platform independent in nature, but this code, this m method is implemented, this m native method is implemented in C or C++. So basically C or C++ is platform dependent. The main drawback of this native method is there is provision to lose platform independence feature of Java. Right, so this M is implemented C or C++. Basically C or C++ is platform dependent. So the beauty of Java program is platform independent. If you are using these native methods, then the platform independence feature may lose, right? So this is about so native keyword. So native keyword can be applicable only on the method. Next, you need to think about the abstract non-access modifiers. So abstract, yes, a variable can be. So here the variable, yes. So you can declare the variable as abstract. Yes, abstract variables. Methods, yes, there are abstract methods. So class, yes, there is abstract class. So block. So in this case, you need to think about method and class are the only abstract here. So now this you cannot declare the variable as abstract. You cannot declare the variable as abstract, but the method and class you can declare as the abstract method as well as abstract class. So there is no provision for abstract block, right? So variables and blocks not allowed. Methods and classes are abstract method as well as abstract class. Already you know about this. I already explained in this abstract methods in the last class. A method with at least one, a method without implementation, then it is said to be abstract method. A method without implementation, then it is said to be abstract method. Right? So a method with implementation is said to be concrete method. A method without implementation is abstract method. Right? So next is abstract class. Yes. So a class contains at least one abstract method. Then your class becomes to abstract class. So abstract keyword can be applied on method as well as class. Right? So a method without implementation, then it is abstract method. A method with implementation, then it is concrete method. A class contains at least one abstract method, then your class becomes to abstract class. However, you cannot instantiate it for abstract classes. Right? So however, you cannot instantiate it for this abstract classes. So this abstract class can contains variables as well as methods. The variables by default, the variables in abstract class is public static final. So public static final are the abstract variables which are in abstract class. So methods are final methods, right? So here public public methods are public methods. This is about the abstract keyword. Yes, so abstract is applicable on method as well as class. A method without implementation, then it is said to be abstract method. A method with implementation is said to be concrete method. So a class contains at least one abstract method, then your class becomes to abstract class. However, you cannot instantiated for abstract classes. You cannot create object for abstract classes. So by default, abstract class variables are public uh, public static final variables. So the methods are uh, public methods. So next is you need to think about the word volatile. So what is this word volatile? Volatile can be applied on the variables only. You can apply volatile keyword on the variables only. You cannot apply the volatile keyword on method, class, and block. Right. So it is applicable only on the variable. The value of volatile variable will never be stored in the cache. Will never be stored in the cache. So volatile means it is stored in the volatile memory. So what is volatile memory? Your main memory is the volatile memory. Whenever there is a power fluctuation, the content of that memory device you are losing. The example is your primary memory like RAM. So all the read and write will be done from the main memory. So which is volatile in nature. So you can think the volatile keyword. So the volatile non-access modifier, the volatile keyword cannot be used with classes or methods. However, it can be used with variables only. So volatile keyword is used to modify the value of variable by different threads. A single sequential flow of execution is said to be threads. So we will discuss threads in the later classes. It also used to make classes thread safe, right? So in order to make your thread safe, we are using this volatile variable. It means that the multiple threads can use a method and instance of classes at the same time without any problem. The volatile keyword can be used either with primitive or objective type. So basic or primitive data types as well as objective objects. So the volatile keyword does not catch the value of the variable and always read the variable from the main memory. Your main memory is the volatile in nature. Whenever there is power up and downs, power fluctuation, the content of your volatile devices will be lost. It also guarantees visibility and ordering. So this is about volatile. So volatile can be applied only on the variables. So synchronized, in order to synchronize between the methods as well as blocks. Yes, so there is synchronized method as well as synchronized blocks. You can apply the keyword synchronized only on the method as well as block. So the block has the less scope compared to this method. So method may contains the blocks. So in threads concept, in order to provide synchronizations, we are using the keyword synchronized, right? So the synchronized will be explored thoroughly in threads concept. So synchronize in order to provide synchronization between two threads, right? So understanding between these two threads, one thread does not interrupt the others. So by using this synchronized keyword, so we can apply method as well as a block. So block synchronization has less, will be available within the method synchronization. Method synchronization has more scope compared to block synchronization. So a method can be contains the blocks. So next is you need to think about strict FP. So strict FP, FP means floating point representation. It can be applied on method as well as class. So it can be applied on method as well as class. Suppose if it is applied on the method, it follows IEEE standards on floating point operations, right? So strict FP, you need to think here. So this can be applied on methods as well as class. So this modifier, when applied to a method, the method follows IEEE standards in floating point operations. The example is strict FP public void calc. So this calc method, it is following this IEEE standards in floating point operations. So it also applied in the class. All the methods in a class follows IEEE standards and floating point operations. Right, so this is about strict FP. It follows IEEE standards in floating point operations. So next, non-access modifier is transient. So the transient applied in the variables only. So this transient is applied in the variables only. The value of such variables will not be persisted. Persistence means permanently stored. So will not be persisted means so it is not stored permanent. So here the transient is applied only on the variables. You can take here this is. So this modifier is applied on only variables. The value of such variable will not be persisted, not permanently stored when object is saved to a file. Suppose if you take this example, class EMP, your class name is EMP. So it has some fields, class level fields as employee number, string name, address, float, salary. So I am declaring this HRA, DA, and PF as transient variables. So why I am declaring HRA, DA, and PF as transient means these three fields are depend on the salary. Depending on salary, HRA, DA, and PF will be there. Right? So based on your salary, we can derive this HRA, DA, and PF. So no need to store these values in the data. Right? So HRA, DA, and PF can be derived from the salary at any point of time. This cannot be stored in a file to save the memory. If you are not saving these, so we are saving the memory. So now you need to think about object serialization. The process of writing the state of object to a file is called the object serialization. Yes. So what you are doing here it is, so writing the state of object. So the object state, right? So the different values of your object, right? So you are writing into a file. What is file? The fundamental structure which is used to store information is called file. So basically it is persistent storage. Files are used for persistent or permanent data storage, right? Is called object serialization. So these are the basic 9 these are the modifiers in Java. So basically there are 12. So this is access modifiers, non-access modifiers. 4 access modifiers, public, private, protected, 3P plus default. So if you are not specifying any of these 3P, then default will be takes place. So non-access modifiers, final, static, native, abstract, volatile, synchronous, strict FP, transient. Suppose if you are thoroughly understand this summarized table, then if you are properly mapping with core Java, 20% of your Java, 20% of your core Java is covered here only. Right? If you are properly mapping this concepts, this yes or no with your concept, 20% of Java will be covered within 30 minutes only. Right? So please, what is my suggestion here? It is please thoroughly understand this table. So based on this table values, yes or n, so you try to map core Java concepts, it will cover 20% of your Java programming. Yes, children, if it is, I think it is used. I hope that this is helpful for you. This is my summarized table, right? If you like this presentation, please like, share, subscribe our channel, right? View our channel also. Thank you for listening.